and welcome to Trusting After Trauma, Season 3, Transitioning to Transformation After Narcissistic Abuse. I'm your host, Pi Venus Winslow. Our focus this season is on making powerful decisions to create transformational life changes for those who have experienced childhood trauma and narcissistic abuse, so they can reclaim their happiness and personal power. Our speakers specialize in supporting others through their unique expertise and offer valuable insights, tools, and inspiration for viewers to find the courage and motivation to change their lives. I'm so excited to have Riana Milne here with us today. Riana Milne, MA, is a certified global life and love trauma recovery coach, a certified clinical trauma and addictions professional, a certified mindfulness coach, #1 best-selling author, the host of her podcast called Lessons in Life and Love, an educational speaker, and licensed mental health counselor for over 21 years, living in Palm Beach County, Florida. She was also a life and dating coach for the docuseries Radical Dating, Finding Lasting Love Over 40. And her client is now happily married. Yeah. Riana specializes in helping those who have had past childhood or love relationship trauma to heal, transform, and thrive, leading them to create the life they desire and to have the love that they deserve. She offers coaching programs for both straight and LGBTQ singles and couples globally for ages 16 to 76. Riana's #1 bestseller, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free from Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve and Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose, and Success, addresses life difficult transitions, personal transformation, the mindset for success, and having loving, conscious relationships with yourself and others. Welcome, Riana. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes.
Always good to see you, my friends. It's nice to be
Oh,
back. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. And I would love if you could just share a little more about your work as a life, love, trauma, recovery, and mindset coach and how you got into this.
Sure. Well, it's a 21-year story. Actually, more, because I started with the mindset for success in my 20s. And I had a model and talent agency in school at age 26. And I was teaching my actors, models, singers, dancers from Erie, Pennsylvania, a small town, to make it in the talent industry globally. And the mindset for success put many on the map: TV shows, movies, commercials. Even my daughter sings on 3 multi-platinum CDs. So that was like an early work, and I love doing it. I love transforming lives and helping people reach their dreams. So that's really how it all began. But I always wanted to be a counselor as a teenager, actually, because I was deeply bullied in middle school years. And I asked my mom if I could see a counselor, and she said, no one in this family will ever see a counselor. And I said, then I'll grow up and become one. And I did. And, but I wanted to raise my children first, make sure they were okay. I had my BA from Penn State in broadcast communications. And then in later years, I went back at 37 for triple masters in applied clinical and counseling psychology. So I opened up my company, Practice Therapy by the Sea. And as I was growing my practice, I worked in all the schools as a trauma counselor in grades kindergarten all the way through college at Rowan University. I worked with kids of trauma at college level. I worked in a mental health unit in a hospital for kids 5 through 19. I worked in drug and alcohol facilities for both teenagers and women from the prison system. And I was finding over the years that there were 10 traumas that kept evolving over and over again that were causing their basic issues or keeping them stuck in life or love. So that started to come together. Now, very early on, I was only 21 when I married and 24 when I had my first daughter and second daughter at 25. And I had married someone that actually ended up being a sociopath. And back then, in my training in psychotherapy, and for most therapists, we never heard childhood trauma. We never heard love trauma. This just was not talked about. It wasn't discovered, so to speak, right? So I didn't know what not to look for. Like most people, I fell in love by chemistry. And it ended up being a very difficult marriage. He actually, stole $200,000 from my mother, and I was very young. And I decided I was better off single as a mom to raise my kids emotionally healthy, and I would do better on my own than having somebody drag me down. So the mindset for success got me through that difficult transitional years. And I opened up the company with just my first month's rent because at 26, I was in a bankruptcy.
Mm.
So years later, I remarry again and discovered that this man had a secret life, and that secret life exploded on him. He was a principal at a school. And ironically, the school superintendent introduced us. So he's their kid, drop him. He deceived all of us. We all got taken in. So I'm like, another sociopath. How does
Mm.
this happen? Why am I attracting these people? I'm a nice lady,
Right.
mom. I work hard in business, and I couldn't figure it out. And the ironic thing, I went to 7 psychotherapist friends who all knew him and us. And it's like they couldn't figure it out. So the last thing he says is, I don't know why I sabotage everything I love. And I said, I don't either, but I'm going to figure it out, because we actually had quite a fun and loving relationship. So that's what was so mind boggling. What was this? And
Mm-hmm.
that's when my research began, psychological journals and books after books, over 400 books in a couple of years. And I'm uncovering this stuff, which was childhood trauma and his impact in life and love. So I developed a childhood trauma checklist way back in 2012, started helping my own therapy clients through this, healing from this. And also then I went on to become a certified clinical trauma professional. So that's the work that I do, trauma recovery. And it is such a passion of mine, Pi, because I knew where I was. And when people come to me, I understand their pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it all reverts back to it all reverts back to partner selection
Mm-hmm.
and why they choose who they choose, which is unconscious choice based on their childhood experiences and their norms. So we have to make the unconscious conscious. And this is what I do now. It's a very intensive, specialized program, very unique,
Mm-hmm.
trademarked and patent for trauma recovery.
Wow, what an
Yeah.
amazing story. And
That's how it
it
all happened.
yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it really helps people to recognize, like anybody could be taken in by a narcissist or a sociopath, right? And it's like knowing what to look for, which you're gonna tell us about, right? So
Yes.
yeah. So
But when I was doing the research in 2011, Martha Stout's book, The Sociopath Next Door, said 1 in 25 were sociopathic. However, the numbers now are like 6 to 7 out of 25. So those who are single and dating really need to be educated in dating, the education we all never got, not in high school, not in college, not in a master's program, not from our parents. So you have to be very educated on what to look for and what not to look for to help protect yourself.
mhm.
Again, coming from, the research shows 9 out of 10 people had childhood trauma, and the other 10% are sociopathic and will say nothing's wrong with them. So we
Mhm.
all come from something, the top 10 traumas that I name.
Mhm.
So depending on what they were, is usually how, again, you select your partner.
Yeah.
So, recognizing what your traumas are and how they're coming out is the first step, because knowledge is power. You can't change what you don't understand or acknowledge, right? So,
Mhm.
that's where we begin with the self and your own childhood experiences, and then what you're experiencing as an adult. And then we go in to heal that.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do the past negative events like actually influence adults from having that life that they love and desire?
There's so many different ways. I put together at least 24 different patterns, but
Wow.
let me name a few. For those people that have not heard about the 10 childhood traumas that I have on my checklist, listen to our prior interview or go to my website and get that free download. But you have to know, first of all, what you've experienced, right? And then you have to see how they're playing out as an adult. So let's say you're in a relationship where you're sabotaging it. You break up, you get back together, you break up and back together. And you don't know why. You're self-sabotaging. The average time of doing that is 7 times for a toxic relationship. So that's usually based around safety. You didn't feel safe as a child and you want love, you crave love. This is also if there was a lot of abandonment, emotional abandonment as a child. So you really want the love, but then you're afraid of it. So you want it and then you break away from it. So this is an attachment issue as well. You're afraid to attach, you're afraid of love. If you're controlling your partner, it's very often you didn't have control in your environment as a child, right? If there is an issue and you break down, you get quiet, which is there's the body responds fight, flight, or freeze. So that would be the freeze response. If you're afraid to speak your feelings because you might have been screamed at by mom or dad and you shut down,
Mhm.
that is a reaction from that. And you don't have the empowerment or the knowledge skills to speak your feelings with empowerment, but
Mhm.
yet in a calm and peaceful way. That's a real skill that a lot of people need to learn.
Mhm.
Passive aggressive people may shut down and then get angry later or act out later.
Mhm.
um, Women very often people please. That would be that difficult father that that would always wants to punish you, and so if you please them, maybe you won't get punished. So that becomes a normalized pattern for a lot of women that they'll do with their men, and they keep trying to please and be the good person and the good partner just to keep peace in the relationship, and then slowly over time they lose themselves, right? They
Yeah.
keep compromising themselves and doing what he wants just to keep the peace. So there's so many different patterns in the
Mhm.
way that this plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you tell us about the top 10 traumas that are experienced during childhood that sabotage adults in dating or marriage, and name some of the negative behavioral patterns that occur due to this?
Yeah. So I'll go into the top 10
Mhm.
briefly. The first one, and again, before we talk about those, I just want everyone to know as a child, they were very young and innocent. So if you recognize these patterns in yourself, first of all, it's not your fault. So it's nothing to feel guilty or shamed about. And it's not a time to be angry at your mom or dad either, because the research shows if you had childhood trauma, definitely so did mom and dad, and usually their parents. It goes through at least 3 generations. So the first thing is if from your caretakers or your environments. So it could have been at school, the neighborhood, or in the home as a child. Okay.
Mhm.
So if there was any addiction from your parents, so drugs, alcohol, sex, meaning you knew your parent was a cheater, porn use, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming, TV watching, workaholism, and even social media addiction. If those all came before the love and care of the child, then you would know that. Okay, that's the first one. Second is verbal abuse, put downs, verbal slurs, something like you look fat in that outfit, go change, it doesn't look good on you, things like that. Even not hearing the words I love you, which was huge with the baby boomer generation. That was one of mine. My mom never could say those words until I taught her at age 24. I finally heard them. Not hearing compliments or the words I'm proud of you,
Mhm.
things like that. Third one is emotional neglect or emotional abuse of any kind. Fourth is physical abuse, any kind of hitting, rape, sexual abuse, molestation. The next one is abandonment. This is a big one and comes out in many different ways, which is fault or no fault abandonment. 2 ways I define it. So, a no fault abandonment would be if a parent happened to die early, certainly not their fault. If they had to deploy to serve our country, or if they traveled a lot, but that's how they supported their family. Okay, so there's abandonment loss, but not their fault. A fault abandonment would never be involved with your child until the couple breaks up, or you're there, but you're not emotionally there or connected. You're
Mhm.
just absent. So that's the parent usually involved with addiction, TV watching, just doesn't engage, go to their kids' activities, just emotionally absent. There are fault abandonments. The
Mhm.
next one would be if you were adopted, part of the foster care system, had to go live in another person's home because your parents couldn't keep you, or they lost the house, or you just didn't want to be there. You wanted to be at your friend's house. So they kind of took you in under their wing because there was always fighting or cheap drama in your house. So that's number 6. Number 7 is the one that people relate to the most, which is personal trauma. That's feeling different in any way, that you didn't fit in. So this could have been you were a chubby, overweight child and teased, or skinny and gawky and called a nerd, or coming out as gay or lesbian and people didn't accept you, or your own parents rejected you.
Mhm.
Just feeling that you didn't identify with your sexual identity you were born with. Could be you're the only African American student in an all Caucasian school. So you can see where this one is so huge that so many people can identify with that, just not feeling good enough.
Yeah.
Trauma 8 is around the sibling. So they could have bullied you. There could have been a medical condition with the sibling that mom and dad gave them more attention. But most often, people I can identify that my sibling was the golden child, the favored one, the star athlete, the smarter student, more handsome, more beautiful. Trauma 9 has 2 parts. One that everyone is experiencing now. So I know everyone's got at least one trauma, and that is community trauma. We're all going through this COVID pandemic. It's all impacting us in many ways. So that is big. Also, our Mother Nature events, floods, fires, hurricanes, tornadoes that impact a whole community at large, or
Mhm.
our mass shootings and school shootings that
Mhm.
again impact communities. The other part of 9 is family trauma. And again, very often the community trauma impacts the family.
Mhm.
So let's talk the COVID example. Parents are losing jobs, or kids are afraid for them to go to their job. They might get sick. They're
Mhm.
standing in food lines. They're losing their homes, can't pay their utility bills. But pre-COVID, family trauma would be if a parent was incarcerated, if you're growing up in a dangerous neighborhood, if there was always lack, not enough financial resources, and you heard a lot of lack messages,
Mhm.
um, things like this. If you were moving a lot as a family, like our military families, then you're always the new kid in school, making you again feel different. And
Mhm.
trauma 10 is mental health issues in mom or dad. Most difficult is borderline and bipolar. Bipolar is manic depressive.
Mhm.
Manic phase could be a gambling spree, a spending spree, an alcoholic binge. Um, it could be a high and happy phase too.
Mhm.
Not always. Very often it's tied around to the addiction. And then depression is like anger, checking out emotionally, or extreme fatigue. And borderline to me is the most difficult for a child to navigate because those are the explosive moods, the yelling, the screaming that nobody else would get upset at. And a child doesn't know when that's going to happen. Keep them constantly walking on eggshells, which keeps them in a state of high anxiety. So
Yeah.
those are the top 10 traumas I described. There are more, but those are the top 10.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And and you just listing all of those off, it's like, wow, like, yeah, obviously those things happening in a person's life are going to have an effect on them. So,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah. So, what are some of the 20 toxic personality types that can break your heart?
Oh, there's many of them, but I go into them in depth in Love Beyond Your Dreams. But that we're talking about today, the narcissist, right? So let's go
Right.
into that narcissist, sociopathic, psychopathic personality type. They're the most dangerous, right?
Mhm.
So the sociopath and psychopath, number one, are always a, min- a malignant narcissist, always. Okay. There are 10 types of narcissistic personalities. So the worst is malignant. And then the other side of the scale is kind of a nice narcissist. They're just kind of kept up on their mission, their purpose. They can be very altruistic, very good people, but a little bit self-involved. Okay. So we're talking about the dangerous kind. So the sociopath and psychopath are very similar. They try to advance themselves and use others for pleasure, profit, or lifestyle advancement. Where they differ is the psychopath has a cunning, very intelligent criminal mind. They will slowly do a deceptive plan over time. Okay, and both of them don't have any remorse. They'll never apologize. So that's a sign too.
Mhm.
So they have no concerns about their consequences. It's criminal thinking and activity. The psychopath can kill without remorse, but they usually plan over time. Think of like a Bertie Madoff who ripped people off cunningly over time. That's a psychopath. A
Mhm.
sociopath will also be dishonest. They both have superficial charm, lack of empathy, lack of stability in their home, usually in their job, no remorse towards strangers or even the ones they love. They do what they want when they want. Um, they usually are very charming at first to win the person in, right? A lot of the women I have in my sessions are successful in business, but struggle in love and
Mhm.
end up with partners who use them in some way, especially financially.
Mhm.
Okay, so that is a sociopath or psychopath.
Mhm.
So they're very dangerous personalities. Those are the top two on the danger scale. Of course,
Mhm.
psychopaths the worst because they can resort to killing, then psychopath and the narcissist. So when many people use the term, oh, I had a narcissist, but very often they had a sociopath
Mhm.
in their life. And that's what happened to me. I had two sociopaths. So they're floating around amongst us, you know, and
Yeah.
our friends and neighbors and in dating world. So you have to be very careful. They're also very often our bosses and that type of thing. And they can hide their behavior for a long period of time, but very often they soon get caught and caught up. So we want to identify these people early on. So that's why dating skills today should tell people what to look for and what to avoid. Both are equally important, right? And the questions to ask so that you're well aware. So it's very important to do what we call conscious dating, not fall in love by chemistry, because chemistry attracts you to your past behavioral patterns and the past love patterns between you and your parents' love patterns. So when people say, and I see this or hear about this on dating sites all the time, must have chemistry. It's like, oh, here we go. you know, and I laugh at that. It's like, no, must have conscious awareness when you date. Super important. So
Right.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it's important to become educated.
absolutely. So what are the signs that you're in a relationship with a narcissist or a sociopath or a con artist?
There's many of them. I named a few already,
Mhm.
um, but to go over them again, easily agitated and irritable. They maintain good emotional and physical control, right? They want control.
Mhm.
They act out spontaneously. They're very selfish. It's all about them. When they make a mistake, they're going to twist you or gaslight you to make it feel like it's your error, your mistake. They'll never apologize. They lack empathy. Again, they are the malignant narcissist,
Mhm.
very dishonest. They're brilliant liars.
Mhm.
They are often risk takers. They don't care, no concerns about the consequences. Very early on, they were usually behavioral problems as kids as well. So there's a few
Mhm.
of the signs.
Yeah. And those signs, I mean, those are pretty obvious. Like people would recognize like they could recognize some of those, like but people still get conned by them. So what's
Yeah.
the flip side? Like how do they get away with it for a while?
I think a great example for our watchers to do is to watch the film series Dirty John. This was a true story, and this is how the sociopath and psychopath will work. They are the stellar boyfriend until they rope you in. Now, one sign is that they usually want a marriage or, a marriage commitment very quickly. That's one sign. So don't be flattered by that. Like, it's like ding, 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 red flag, like you don't want to marry quickly or early. Usually they are the ideal partner for the first 90 days. It's usually month 4 to month 9 where the behavior patterns start coming out. I mean, I tell all my clients, if you're starting to like someone, do a background check. No doubt about it. Find out, because they won't tell you. And you have to be empowered. You have to know what's going on in that world. And you will not get involved until you know that there is nothing on a background check. So
Mm-hmm.
you really have to be self-protective today,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're an accomplished woman and you have your life together. So most people that come to me have had extreme childhood trauma. They're recognizing themselves in the 10 traumas. They're recognizing that they're attracting into their world dangerous partners or people that hurt them over and over again, which we call relationship repetition syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing is, again, to take the unconscious awareness and make you totally conscious about what you're doing while you're selecting. And I use the mindset for success, also that work, to make you feel successful in all of your life areas. So we look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get you out to date once you have the dating skills. So I am with them as they're encountering their dates and they're saying yes, no, and I need to know why. Like, they need to practice the why. And then they end up with extremely excellent partners, which we call emotionally healthy and conscious partners.
Mm-hmm.
And two people that have their life together moving forward makes the best relationship. Because when you feel great about your life, you're not going to settle for less. You're not going to take on someone with cheap drama, need to bail them out of debt, someone that's only a renter, not a homeowner. In other words, like someone that has their life totally together,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, that's what you need to know. Like, what is it? The deep stuff. Is this going to make a good partner for me? Not just he's hot. You got to get
Right.
beyond the chemistry.
Right, right. So yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is like really going into the work of like discovering your patterns and then like recognizing like the familiarity, like that's the chemistry, right? It's more like that person's familiar to me. It reminds me of, you know, love that I experienced when I was young, right?
Well, what's happening, Pi? Exactly. But what it is the brain likes to keep the human in homeostasis, meaning they like the normality going forward,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's all very unconscious. So the brain chemistry will attract you to those past dynamics. Even though
Mm-hmm.
consciously you might say, this guy's not good for me, I should not go back. So you break up, but then that love pull pulls you back.
Right,
Right.
right.
So it's the brain doing the work. Trauma stays stored in the brain and the body cells and the body system. So we
Yeah.
have to break those norms. And in all my trauma work, it's 6 months. And doing the work that I teach my clients, which is, skills that they do over and over and over again, they keep practicing it. But the thing is, what's really cool is once they get it, they will use these skills forever.
Yeah.
Right. So I have a 150-page workbook. It's not a fluff course. This is intensive trauma recovery, for
Right.
people that are really serious. I want to change my life. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a combination of psychology, emotional mindset, spirituality, holistic health, mind, body, spirit. I use vitamin therapy. So there's so much to teach, and they do all this over time.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get the mindset skills because the mind has to be stronger than the unconscious pull,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
conscious mind, right?
Right.
So what happens, we call emotional triggers. So let's say, here's an example. A man is off at work. He gets yelled at by his boss and says, you're a goof up. If you do it one more time, I'm firing you. You just disappoint me. And this man heard messages when he was a kid constantly from his father. You're no good. You'll amount to nothing. You're always disappointing me. So now this man comes home in a bad mood, yells at the wife. The wife takes it personally. Like, now what did I do wrong? He's criticizing her. He puts her down. He's angry. He's using his own ego defenses because he feels less than. So now this cycle of abuse happens.
Mm-hmm.
This is typical when I get couples in. So what they have to recognize is on the way home, the husband instead with training would say, you know what? Wow, I was just emotionally triggered by my boss because I heard these same messages from my dad. I know I feel in my body system I'm upset. So I'm going to call my wife and say, babe, I'm going to pick us up some dinner, and do something different to break the pattern and versus coming home and coming home in a bad mood. Then come in and say what happened, claim responsibility. So he could say, if I'm a little off or quiet tonight, hon, it's not you. I just had a bad day and this is what happened. I recognize that I was triggered back to this, right? So there's all these new emotional
Mm-hmm.
skills and conversation communication skills that my clients need to know and practice till they become normal
Yeah.
skills, right? And that's not easy because you're learning a whole different emotional regulation, communication, getting in touch with your feelings, not running away from them, not coming home and taking 2 shots
Yeah.
to mask those feelings. So this is an art and a science based in psychology and trauma healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So could you share just a few success strategies for our audience to help them attract emotionally healthy love?
Yeah. There's so many. Pi, where do I begin? Um, First of all, I want to make it clear that it's a very individualized program. I have a VIP one-on-one program, right? So depending on what they experienced and what they're experiencing in their adult life is how I treat the client. So it's very individualized. That's first. Second, there are some things that all my clients do. Like they all do a 15-minute meditation called Divine Spiritual Meditation that has 4 steps, because in science and quantum physics, it shows that meditation done in a certain way decreases anxiety, depression, cortisol levels, which is that fight, flight, or freeze,
Mm-hmm.
which lessens your anxiety, lessens blood pressure, and increases dopamine and serotonin levels of the brain, which are your happy chemicals and your energy chemicals. So they do that almost from lesson 1. I teach that in lesson 1. I also see what physical symptoms they have, and I put them on vitamin therapy. So some of my people come to me on psychotropic drugs like antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, which science shows have about a 33% rate and a lot of side effects. So I think it's a band-aid, right? Their mind has to be stronger. So depending on what they're feeling, I'll put them on certain vitamins. I'll suggest those for holistic health. We look at diet, we look at exercise, we look at friendships. We have to look at their life as it is,
Mm-hmm.
what's toxic going on. And, basically I'm putting out a lot of fires initially. And my clients say, wow, by session 2 or 3, they're already feeling better, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And that helps us do the deeper work, the trauma healing work. So that's first. We analyze their personality. What do they want to change? We
Mm-hmm.
do goal setting. What is that life they desire? What have they put on the back burner to try and please this partner
Mm-hmm.
and they couldn't do for themselves? And so many people put themselves last, right? It's like, what do you want? And let's let that start happening.
Yeah.
And we start working on those skills and getting those goals really lined up and happening. They
Mm-hmm.
start happening. And then we go into the psychological, spiritual, emotional connection with self and others, which is super important for healing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's all under life skills. And then the second part is the dating skills. Um, One lesson my dad taught me goes, kid, if you've got the 5 Ds, you can do anything in life. So this is under mindset. And I had to add 2 more because I found that they were very important. So the first one is decide. Decide exactly what you want. It has to be very firm in your mind that this is what you're going for, right? That's kind of falls under the law of attraction a little bit. Know exactly what you want. And the part of that, then I go into a whole lesson around that because 8 out of 10 people have 8 out of 10 negative fear-based thoughts. So
Mm-hmm.
they may want something, but then their negative thoughts, which we call from the dark side, saying, but I can't do it. I really want to be a world coach, but I couldn't do that. How am I going to do that? I just have a local practice, right? So
Right.
the mindset, or I just live in Erie, PA. How am I going to be on a TV actor out of LA? That's
Mhm.
what my guy said, who was on Baywatch, and Natalie Rattano from VIP, and my daughter who sings on 3 multi-platinum CDs. Decide what you want. We can always get it after that. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, this mindset work. That's number one. Decide, determination to get it.
Mhm.
Devotion is spiritual. Dedication to the process and always learning, waking up with the 3 goals a day. What am I going to do today to make my goal, my decision come more and more to life? Dare to dream and dream big. And the last one is the drive, because it's not going to be easy.
Right.
In Buddhism, we call this living in the earth school, right? So spiritually, we are expected to get challenges in our life. But when we are emotionally grounded and spiritually based, we know this. And we don't let it shake us. We don't become the victim or say, why me? And it's like, okay, this has come up. What's my plan A, plan B, and my plan C to handle this? And why is it showing up for me? We look at it a little deeper.
Right.
Maybe it's a
Right.
sign I should be changing direction. So many people are like, oh, this COVID, blah, blah, blah. No, that's fear-based thinking. COVID is, what can I do?
Right.
Can I do to change, to be successful, to keep going with
Mhm.
my plan, my decision, right? So mindset is huge in creating that life you desire, and having the love you deserve is skill and education that nobody's teaching, except it's in my program. You know, it's just that there is a deeper art and science and psychology and spirituality to dating that
Mhm.
nobody learned. And
Yeah.
like I said, it's a very unique system based on research.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And thank you so much for being a part of this series. You just shared so much value with all of
You're
us,
welcome.
and you've taught me things. So thank you so much.
You're
Um,
welcome.
yeah, and your best-selling book, your number one best-selling book, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free from Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve, that is a 400 value-packed page book. Where can our listeners find it?
Definitely my books are on Amazon. They're in the Barnes and Noble bookstores in America. They're on bn.com as well as Amazon in Kindle and Nook format or paperback. So they're kind of all over. If you just Google search it, find it the best spot for you. I know a lot of people around the globe buy it, so they have it in their stores. And yeah, it's all based on the research, and there was just so much more research coming in. That's what went into the notebook. The notebook is not for sale. That's for my clients to use and enjoy and learn from. But I do have a lot of free things for our listeners. So I have 106 shows on my podcast, Lessons in Life and Love. And if you go to my website, which is my name, rianamilne.com, there's the 4 free love tests you can take, and one is a childhood trauma checklist. So check to see if you have any of those. They're all simple and easy to use. I have free book chapter downloads as well from Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams, and tons of articles on my website. So please help yourself.
Perfect. And we're going to provide those links just underneath this interview. So our viewers will be able to find that information
And
and
the free
put it
ebook,
up.
Pi,
Yeah.
the free ebook, which is 32 pages, that goes more into childhood trauma. Make sure you use that link provided here on the page to get that ebook for yourself too.
Oh my goodness. Free ebook. Oh, so many wonderful freebies too.
Oh,
Thank you,
sure.
Riana. That's so generous of you.
Yeah, it's, Pi, I appreciate you helping me to help change the way the world loves. And it is my passion, and I'm sure it's yours too, to be protective of, women and men that really just innocently want love, and they so deserve it. Right. So knowledge is power. The good news is childhood and love trauma can be healed. So if you are at the hands of, a sociopath, narcissist, psychopath, know that there is healing. This never has to happen to you again. And people like Pi and I are here to help you.
Thank you, Riana.
You're welcome.
And thank you everyone for watching and joining us for Trusting After Trauma Season 3, Transitioning to Transformation After Narcissistic Abuse. We're going to continue to explore with our experts on how we can transition to transformation after narcissistic abuse and heal our body, mind, and spirit to live joyful, authentic lives. We'll see you soon.